Hey everyone, Irit here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of CSM Practice, the podcast that is constantly bringing you innovative ideas and ways for you to scale your customer success practice and get to better results. And as you know, we all struggle with some sort of a longer tail customer base, meaning those SMBs, those customers that are not part of our 80% of the revenues, but rather 20% of our revenues, but we still care about them. And we want them to be successful and we want them to grow with us. The problem is that most of the time, we just don't have the budget to hire enough customer success managers to deal with every single one of our customers or support them to be successful. Hence, digital CS or scalable models. And on today's episode, I'm going to share one more solution with you that you may want to consider adopting in your practice. And without further ado, I'm very pleased to announce our next guest, Elad Donsky. Elad, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks, Irit, for inviting me. Happy to be here.
First of all, you're the CEO of a company called Mayple. For full disclosure, you actually work with companies to help them increase their success of their customers in the long cohort to results to get to higher adoption. What is it exactly that you do? Because they don't necessarily have to hire you to execute on that. So if somebody's listening here and saying, actually, I don't want to do that, I'd rather hire somebody to do it, then they can hire you. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have built an innovative platform for freelancers that can join and get vetted. That's on one side. And on the other side, we help SaaS companies to engage with their long tail segment or scaled segment with one on one engagement with these freelancers that are industry experts and also expert in your product. And with that, with this pay per use model, you can now serve your long tail customers in real human engagements in a way that was not possible before.
A lot of companies talk about, well, you gotta serve the long tail customer base, meaning SMBs, the ones that you can't hire a person for. So you have to do digital CS, meaning complete tech touch. Do you subscribe to that assumption?
Yeah, first of all, we do see that digital engagements move the needle with additional investment like webinars, knowledge bases. Now with Gen AI, it's unlocking new options for engaging with your customers in a digital form. However, what we see, and we see that in almost every SaaS company, is that it's not enough. You can move the needle, but it's have a very strict limitation. At the end of the day, if you think of an SMB, they also want to talk about their strategy. They also want to talk about how they're to maximize the utilization on the product, especially when the product is becoming more and more complex. SMB doesn't have the time to deep dive into all of the different features and understanding exactly how I'm going to utilize it and maximize my ROI on it. And doesn't matter how many digital engagement you're going to put in, they're going to have this limitation. So I would not say stop doing that, but I'm saying understand the limitation and understand that there is now a path for engaging with these customers in a new way, which is not the standard CSM way. And this is what we bring to the table.
I think that that's the big aha moment that people are going to get listening to this episode, because even I, to some degree, always subscribe to the fact that, listen, if you have 10,000 very small customers, like the ones that pay you, I don't know, less than $2,000 a year, there's nothing you can do besides tech touch. But I will tell you, a few years back, I co-presented with a VP of customer success at Salesforce. Well, we shared that the bottom line was that when you do almost like too much tech touch, you're not going to get as much upsells or as good of a retention rate as you would if you have even like a single point of touch. And then a few years later, I actually had another client and we introduced even just this one touch point where the CSM would call them just once a year to say, hey, do you need any help? And that alone increased their upsells by 10%. So there's something to be said about a human touch. But today we're actually going to showcase how could potentially companies think about it seriously and introduce something that's scalable that doesn't make them bleed. I think it's going to be a game changer in how people think about it. I got super excited. That's why I invited you today, Elad. We talked about the main challenge that companies have. They don't have enough budget to get people in to actually do a higher touch or sometimes even a pooled model for the very, very small customers. It just doesn't pan out. So then they're thinking, okay, let me get a technology. When they implement this third solution, which we're going to talk about it, like at a high level, we're talking about leveraging partners or leveraging an outside resource that you don't pay unless they're successful or you don't pay for them at all. So just imagine a world where you could have somebody provide that touch point, but you didn't have to pay them unless they were successful or something along those lines. If we had to think about it outside and somebody actually implemented, and you actually did this solution for a couple of companies already, what is the big impact that we can expect in that smaller cohort? What are the big changes that the companies that did pursue the solution actually gotten?
You touched on two very important points. One is for some of the SMBs, even one-time engagement can be a game changer. So we see many companies that at the beginning they're thinking, okay, I need to scale my CSM model to my SMB or to my long tail segments, and that will actually doesn't make sense, right? Giving all of this nurturing. But this is one key point. And the second key point is that many SaaS companies already have great partners. Some of them have ecosystem, communities, but usually what we see there is that these type of partners want to take on big projects, want to work with the enterprise customers because they don't want to deal with very small project with like 1 hour consultation, 3 hours type of project. It doesn't make sense for them to engage with these type of customers, give them a PO, talk about, let's discuss what the project is going to look like when the actual project that is being required in 3 hours. So taking these 2 points into account and take into account that there are so many partners, experts, freelancers, micro agencies out there that are already helping your customers in different ways. Can we get them to actually help your customers, your SMB long tail segment, and also closing the loop, like you said? So making sure that the customer were actually successful, that they're satisfied, that they're uplifting their usage, that they're now on a different position from where they started before this one-time engagement. And we see that everywhere in every different type of SaaS companies. And as I said before, as the product is more complex, this is where the problem is much, much larger for the SMB segments.
Thank you for highlighting this. I think it's important because if anybody's thinking, oh, yeah, I could just let my partners do it, you're right. A lot of the partners would say, no, I just want the bigger projects. They wouldn't want something that's very light touch, but we know that that light touch is enough to get to real results. So what are the type of results that you have seen once companies start to activate that model?
I think it's one of our most common use cases is that you have many features in your product and many of your SMBs are using one feature because this is what they came to use your product for, this main feature. And the thing is that once they're no longer interested in that feature or it's not that important for the company, they're churning completely because they're stopped using that specific feature they came for. However, there are many features out there in your product that can help your customers. Some of them are already paying for that. So one type of an engagement can be, let's get these one feature type of customers that are using one feature to use even only one more. Let's make them like a 2 or more type of customers. Only that, this is a success criteria that very, very highly correlated with retention, with churn, and also with customers' happiness and how they see the ROI and then expansion. That's something that is very common, and you cannot believe how easy that is to get done when you're speaking with an expert, with an industry expert, with a partner that can help you understand why should you enable that feature. And also, they can also help you enable it for you if it's a complicated feature to enable. It depends on the feature type. But again, one-time experience made by your partner, very clear and success criteria for enablement. It's a win-win for everyone, for the partner, for your ecosystem, for your customers, and of course, for you as managing this entire customer base.
Wow. So it sounds like this is a cousin of what we used to call partner success. it's not exactly partner success, because partner success is, you have a big partner, they resell it, they implement it, they're responsible for the renewals at times. But this is a completely different use case. And it's not even managed services, because we know that there's companies out there where you could say, you know what? I have 10,000 customers that are very small, paying me less than 5K. You own the renewals. Or, hey, this company so and so, you own customer success. You do whatever you like, just make it happen. Here, you're like, no, there's a fourth solution here for that cohort. We can harness the power of the experts community, or the industry experts community. Such an agile approach. We'll break it down even more, because I think not a lot of people thought about that, or even have access to a community of experts that they could just activate. I mean, I'm just thinking, if I'm a company, maybe I have 3, 4, 50 partners that I could start with, if I don't even have a partner success, but a community of experts. Oh, not everybody would want to do any type of project. I may or may not know some experts, but they may or may not be interested in these types of projects. So let's break it down. Like, what does success look like? How does this work? What are the key ingredients that makes this unique approach work?
I'll start with what you mentioned regarding your existing partners or ecosystem. So first, you have to be very clear with your partners, with your experts on the expectations, because you want to vet them, you want to interview them, and you want them to understand how this type of project looks like. And some of them might won't be willing to engage with this type of project, but you would be surprised how many very, very large partners that are usually taking big deals will be happy to take these small deals, because they're coming in high volume and because there is not a lot of overheads around that. It's very instant, they're getting customers automated way. So it's opening their eyes on the potential of how they can work with the smaller type customers. So that's on the supply side. And of course, invite everyone. Everyone can join. You're not going to be biased towards one agency or another, or one expert or another. Everyone can join, but there are specific things that you're going to ask from them in order to create that experience or experiences. So that's one thing which is very important on the supply side. On the customer side, what is very important is not to send them into a directory of partners or directory of experts. This is, from our experience, not something that is going to work for you, because these customers are going to get lost again when they need to look for the right experts with different prices, with different engagements. Sometimes these customers don't even know what they want out of the product. So they need to have some discovery sessions. So make it very clear to the customer, package it in a very clear, very simple way on what they're going to get. Is data, for example, a health check on their account, 1-hour consultation? There are many examples, and make it excited for them and very clear, simple for them to engage. This is where we see very, very high engagement rates when you're reaching out to these SMBs customers and we're telling them, hey, we have this experience for you to try out. And I think these are the two major key components. Another one I would say is understand your customer pains from analytics, from the digital engagement that you've done so far, to form a great experience. Because at the end of the day, these are experts and partners, but you want to guide them on how to be successful with your customers. And they're looking for that, by the way. Freelancers are working by themselves. They're looking for help, for guidance. They want to become better experts. So if you are facilitating that in the right way and helping them to be successful with their customers, the customers that you're sending over, again, you're creating that win-win-win situation I was talking about earlier. And that's a key to make this type of program successful.
Okay, so on the one hand, you need to vet out, make sure that the expert is really an expert, engaging, friendly, empathy. On the other hand, you need to make sure that you pick out the right problems for them to solve. And it almost sounds like you give them an exact playbook. This is a 3-hour gig. You do these questions first, then you have a session about this, and then the outcome looks like that, like a report. These are the templates you're going to, it's very well baked. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's very weighted. We don't want to keep it too strict. There is some room for flexibility, of course. We want that, it's important. But on the other hand, it's important for us to be very clear on what are the deliverables expected from the parties. That's what makes it successful. It's very clear customers' expectation. And also from the expert side, it's very clear for them what they need to provide. From our experience, that this is something that can scale easily. This is something that you can create quality at scale as well, which is also very important to keep the quality when you're scaling such an initiative.
Yeah. So, for example, if I have a survey solution, which we know perfectly well, these solutions typically sell for a lower price tag. And I have a bunch of cohort that only did a very simple survey, but I also have an employee survey or an NPS type survey that I would love for them to opt into, or some sort of like logic or embed in your website type of thing. I know they haven't used it, but if they did, that's a game changer. Maybe it's a differentiator for us. And we know for a fact, looking at the usage data, that those who do use that another like feature that's maybe like a little bit more advanced do stick around for longer. I can bake a workshop or a short engagement that I can then sell. Listen, this is all about monetizing customer success. I assume the customer has to buy into that short engagement. So it has to speak about a problem that I have or use case that I want.
It can go both ways. One way is exactly what you've mentioned, to speak about a specific use case that you want, and we're just going to help you with facilitating the help of the experts and the partners to help you get there. So some customers do know exactly what they're looking for or the next steps, and then you're very clear of, hey, we have the right person to help you and to help you now, because instantly you can get connected with the right expert that understands your industry, not just the product. That's also key. It's not just about understanding the product, but also understanding the language of your industry in the different verticals that you're serving in your survey solution. But on the other hand, there is another option for giving customers an overview of how they're using the tool today. That's what we call health check. Sometimes we see in the industry it's being called audit, which is, let's just overview how you're using the product today. Let's hear about your company goals, and let's see where the main gaps are. And we can give you some suggestion on how to close these gaps. So, and usually when we do that, companies not thought about that the fact that they have gaps and the fact that they can close it with the tool. So there is a lot of discovery in it. And there is a lot of aha moments of like, hey, I'm paying for this tool. There's so many things I can do with it that I didn't even know. And it actually fits my business goals. And especially on SMB, we see that especially on SMB side, when they don't have time to research, to understand everything that's happening on these different tools. So that's another route. We've seen success with both routes. It depends where is currently your major issue with your customers. What do you feel the customers need right now? And also you can do both at the same time, for customers that understand what they want, and some for customers that they're not sure and they want to get some advice on how to uplift their usage.
So let's say I'm an expert. I did the health check as the vendor. How do you know that I did a good job? Do you reward me regardless?
First of all, we invest a lot in monitoring, because at the end of the day, it's very important if you build such a project or such a platform that it wouldn't be like a marketplace, that you wouldn't just match, but you would actually monitor the experience. You can do it with recording the calls, customer surveys. Of course, it's very important to understand, hear from the voice of the customer what they thought about the experience, also hear from the experts. So you need to have some quality controls in place, not just vetting, not just at the beginning of the process, but also in the ongoing. That's very important. And second, measurements. We want to measure, once we define a KPI for an experience, we want to measure that. And we want to be very clear on, do we get to that success with these customers or not? And according to that, we can then define the payout model for the expert. Maybe the expert did an amazing job, but there is not a potential for uplift for that specific account, or we see a tremendous uplift in usage. Usually what we like to look is, on average, look at on aggregate on a few customers, because some customers are different from one another, and some of them are already utilize the product very well. And so even a great expert with a great experience cannot do more than that. It happens sometimes, but we do find places for uplift. So we are looking on aggregate, on average, how the uplift looks like, to first understand that this experience is actually beneficial for the customers and for us as a SaaS company, and also get the expert with their portion that they for the work with the customer.
Wow, you just gave us the playbook for how to do the health score for the expert too, and for that particular engagement. Brilliant. Who pays for it? I assume maybe the customer, but if it's a health check, maybe not.
Yeah, when we started thinking about these experiences, we started with giving it for free for the customer. So the SaaS vendor is actually paying for that, especially with the health check use case. And why? The ROI that you can see as a vendor by paying for these experiences is with the saved ARR or with the expansions. And when the math works here, just scale it. It's magic because it's free for the customer. They're super happy to get such an engagement for free as part of their package. They're using the product more. ARR is growing. So again, win-win-win by giving it away for free. With some customers, you can provide a paid solution or paid experiences. For example, maybe I want an expert to just take the entire work of managing this SaaS platform for me. For example, I have a platform to manage email campaigns. So I just want an expert to take everything away from me, just managing it for me, a great expert on an ongoing basis. This is also something that you can provide. And again, it's a win both for the ecosystem. It's a win for you because you know that now there is a great expert that is working with your client on your ongoing basis and always innovative and helping them using most innovative features to use it in the right way to maximize the ROI. And they're also paying for that because their alternative will be to find this type of expert themselves in this chaotic world of experts and agencies, and you don't know where they're going. But now you're more in control and you make sure that you keep the quality. So there is a win there as well. Again, it depends on the use case, depends what you want to solve, but definitely both ways are options that we've seen success in both.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some customers, even if it's a small business, would be willing to pay for somebody to help them get a much higher open rate on their marketing campaigns or a much higher response rate on their surveys. And I think there's something to be said about paying by performance on these things because you're getting an expert that you haven't gotten any recommendations for. They were merely vetted in by the vendor, so there's still a lot of trust to be made. But what if you could get that and get the results that you want? I think it's worth something to me as a CEO.
I agree. And it's a lot about trust and confidence. Sometimes you see these customers that are working with vendors, with agencies or experts, and they have no idea, are they doing a good job for them? Maybe I should replace them. You're always in a lack of trust when in this type of engagement because usually you don't know, you're not in the depth of the tool and what they're doing. So creating that trust with vetted experts by your company, it's a game changer for you as a business because, as you said, in many cases, they're paying for that already. They're paying for these services already with different vendors, but without the trust and quality controls in place and someone to help you to maximize your ROI.
First of all, brilliant solution, I think. I think there's a lot of companies out there that do have that very long cohort trying to solve it in house, don't know what to do. I think this is brilliant. Only have these big partners that may or may not be interested or see the vision in it. I think the devil's in the details. How do you craft the offer? Do you charge for it or not? How do you make sure that you vet out the experts? I think this is why sometimes people hire your company, Maple, to just organize the whole thing and take it away and just make it happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of details to cover. There's a lot of nuances also in these experiences, especially regarding quality, especially regarding how do you get to the key success metrics. There's a lot of partnership as well with different areas in the organization. You want to see data. There is a lot of product insights also part of this conversation. So, for example, if you would record all of these conversations, health check, engagement, etc., you start hearing this voice of customers that usually you're not talking with. So there is an amazing product uplift and product insights that you're getting out of that. So lots of details around it. And if you get all the relevant teams in the company together to build a great experience, you will be successful because this was SMBs want, they want someone to talk with and to help them and, to take some of the work away from them, especially when these products are becoming more complex.
I always tell my girls, there's even expertise in how you make an omelet. Nothing simple. You can always do it better. There's always some expertise in everything. And certainly, I think there's something to be said about even this. It may sound simple, but the devil's in the details, and you get better and better the more you do it, the longer you do it with the more people and customers and experts that you do it with. So, Elad, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing from your perspective and experience how this works, what worked for you so far. Every now and then, I don't invite VPs of customer success, but I actually invite your community supporters like Elad to come in and share how do they work with companies to increase retention, adoption, and upsells and customer satisfaction, obviously. So, Elad, thank you so much for coming to the show and sharing this with us.
Thanks again, Irit, for inviting me. Thanks for the great questions, and I enjoyed our conversation.
Everyone, if you liked what you heard, it kind of gave you an aha moment. I know it gave me an aha moment. I was like, what? expert success, not a partner success. That's pretty cool. Shout out to Elad in the comments below. Check out his detail. I'm gonna share all of his information in the about section. So feel free to reach out. And with that, it's a wrap. I'll see you on our next episode.